As our temperatures are getting colder, our lakes, rivers, and ponds are starting to freeze over. That's when ice fishing starts. I'm Mike Anderson with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Today we're going to start our annual ice fishing previews with our district fisheries biologist. My first guest this week is South Central District Supervisor Paul Bailey. Paul, a year ago we had record moisture on the landscape. How are water levels looking this year, and how's access going to be?
Well, we're really fortunate that we had those record wet falls in the fall of 2019 that put most of our lakes at record elevations. And the summer we just had was pretty dry, so we definitely lost a foot or two of water, kind of on average in most of our lakes. But thanks to that residual moisture we had from last fall, we're actually sitting pretty good going into this ice fishing season.
Okay, it's pretty early in the year. Ice is forming on some of the lakes. How are things shaping up so far?
Definitely sketchy. I mean, early ice is something anglers definitely want to be cautious about. You know, when you start hitting the ice, make sure you got your ice picks with you, a spud bar. Make sure you either go with a buddy, or make sure you've let someone know where you're planning to fish that day. In case disaster strikes, and make sure you can do that self-rescue, and make sure you can check that ice thickness with a spud bar as you start venturing out.
Okay, what most people want to know, what are the fish populations? And let's start with walleye first.
Sure. Walleye are really going to be the best game in town in the south central part of the state. It's which is fortunate. So many of our anglers prefer walleye above most other fish species. So if you like targeting walleye, honestly, the opportunity this winter season has probably never been better. A lot of our lakes that anglers are probably pretty familiar with, Rice, Dry, Alkaline, Josephine, Jasper, places like that are still going to be worth hitting this fall. But we've got, honestly, better walleye opportunity than we've ever had in the south central part of the state. A number of other lakes, and I mean, more than I could probably mention here in a few minutes or go over them all. So I'd really encourage anglers to take a look at our website and all the data that we made available there, because I wouldn't say they're hidden gems, really nothing to hide these lakes, but a little, research on the part of an angler could come across some lakes that maybe they're not very familiar with that have some tremendous walleye opportunity right now.
Okay, let's move into our pike populations.
Pike, we're still looking pretty good. There's good opportunity throughout the south central part of the state. Places that recently recovered from winter kill, down in that Linton, Strasburg area, like Jake's Lake, Baumgartner Lake, they both suffered complete winter kills in the winter 18-19. But we've pretty aggressively stocked pike into both those places. And now, I wouldn't say there's really nice size pike in there, but numbers are pretty good. So they should offer good opportunity for smaller pike this year. Last winter, we had kind of an unusual circumstance last year that we had some really good water clarity in the Braddock Napoleon area. So West Lake Napoleon, North Lake Napoleon, Goose Lake provided good angling opportunity, but really good spearing opportunity as well due to the really good water clarity. And then you move further north into Kidder County, we've got Horsehead, Cherry, Lakes Helen, that all should provide good pike opportunity this winter.
Okay, let's talk panfish populations in your district.
Yeah, starting with perch, that's probably where we're still, maybe not going to quite meet anglers' expectations this winter yet. Our perch are notoriously boom and bust in North Dakota, and our last boom was a result of the high water years following the springs of 9, 10, and 11. That created some ideal conditions for perch to reproduce. And that's what it really takes to cause a boom in our perch fishing, which, again, those springs of 9, 10, and 11 led to some extraordinary perch fishing in, say 14, 15, 16, that 4, 5, 6 years after we saw those great reproductive conditions. Well, really, we haven't had great reproduction conditions for a few years now, until the spring of 2020. Thanks to the moisture we had in the fall of 19, early indicators are we saw good perch reproductive success in 2020. So a few years down the road, we'll see hopefully a good bump in our perch fishing again. In the meantime, what anglers are going to see is it's going to be difficult in a lot of lakes to catch a 20 perch limit, but the perch that are out there are really nice sized. So if anglers are hoping to catch a perch of a lifetime, honestly, this would be a good winter to do it. We've got a number of lakes, especially down that Wishick-Ashley area, Dry, Dollinger Schnabel, Green, Hoskins, places like that offer an opportunity of a real, a trophy-sized perch. So I think anglers could adjust their expectations a little bit that way, maybe not have their heart set on a 20 perch limit, but start looking for some of those nicer perch and probably be pleasantly surprised at what they could find this winter.
Okay, any other panfish?
We do have a few places to target bluegill. We're a little more limited with other panfish outside of Perch in the south central part of the state, but Niagara Dam, Harmon Lake are a couple of good places to try for bluegill this winter.
Okay. The most popular lake in your district is Lake Oahe. Go over the fish populations in Lake Oahe quickly.
Sure. Well, starting with walleye there, we've almost been too blessed with good natural reproduction. Too much of a good thing in recent years. Now, we haven't stocked, the North Dakota Game and Fish Department hasn't stocked walleye in the Missouri River between Garrison Dam or Lake Oahe down to the South Dakota border since the early 1980s. So we're relying on natural reproduction to maintain that walleye population. And like I said, we've had too much of a good thing here in recent years. Really, I'd say about 6 of the last 7 years, we've had good to great reproductive success, which ordinarily is something we're pretty happy about, but not on Lake Oahe right now with the lack of forage we have out there right now. So we've got tremendous numbers of smaller walleye that aren't growing very well. Typically in Lake Oahe, we see our walleye reaching about 15 inches in length at age 3. Now we've got 5-year-old walleye who are barely hitting 15 inches. So we've seen a big reduction in the growth rate to these fish. They tend to be a little bit skinnier. But the good news for an angler would be that they're extremely abundant. So it's a place you can have some pretty fast action right now. And I'd encourage anglers, don't be afraid of taking home some of those 13, 14, 15-inch walleye this year. Maybe a little smaller than what most would like for the frying pan, but those walleye are extremely abundant, and you're not doing any harm to the walleye population by taking some of those very abundant small fish home with you.
Okay, how about the pike? You have a large pike in Lake Oahe.
Right, that's certainly a treat. A lot of people enjoy targeting pike of all sizes in Lake Oahe, but Lake Oahe is notorious for producing some of those 20-plus pound, occasionally 25-plus pound pike. So, and they're still out there. We haven't had great pike reproductive success in a few years either. So pike numbers aren't as spectacular as they might have been, but by any time you see a bump on the end of your line could be an absolute monster in Oahe.
Okay, crappie.
Yeah, crappie again. Our crappie numbers kind of peaked in Lake Oahe in about that 14, 15, 16 time frame. And that was due to the result of Lake Oahe gaining a tremendous amount of water in the spring of 2009. We had a tremendous year class of crappie produced that year. So crappie numbers aren't as good as they were kind of in the heydays here that, half a dozen years ago, but there's still good crappie opportunity in any of the large embayments on Lake Oahe, Beaver Bay, Porcupine Bay, 4 Mile Bay, all be good places to look for some of those crappie.
Okay, Paul, let's move into these community ponds or urban fisheries. You have a few in your district.
Sure, we're fortunate here in Bismarck to have a couple, in the Bismarck-Mandan area, I should say, to have a couple good opportunities right now. And we tried to enhance those opportunities a little bit better for this early ice period by stocking some trout this fall. Places like the Owls Pond and Poresburg Dam are both good places. Access is pretty easy. And if you don't feel like or your kids won't like sitting in the car for an hour to get someplace else to ice fish, they're a handy spot to squeeze in an ice fishing trip. And those trout should provide some good early ice opportunity.
Okay, in January of this year, we produced a program, How to Basically Ice Fish. Give our viewers some tips on if you're looking for targeting walleye or northern pike or perch when you go out for the first time.
Sure, timing is a big factor. So different fish species tend to feed more advantageously at different times of the day. Walleye have really good low light vision. So great times to target walleye are when they are at a predatory advantage over their prey. So that would be around sunrise and sunset are typically very good times to start targeting walleye. Whereas species like perch and pike don't have that great low light vision. They tend to feed more readily during the time periods when the sun is high in the sky. So you can really make a nice day out of fishing if you can target walleye around sunrise, maybe switch to targeting perch and pike. And when the sun is higher in the sky and be someplace set up for walleye around sunset again.
A lot of great information, Paul. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mike.
We're at Patterson Lake in Dickinson now. Joining me is Southwest District Supervisor Jeff Hendrickson. Jeff, it's going to be a little while before people are ice fishing at Patterson Lake, but in your district in general, how are water levels?
Water levels are pretty good. We were all full coming into the year this year, so everything was looking pretty good. Kind of a drought this summer, so all the lakes are down a little bit right now, but nothing to worry about really.
Jeff, let's move into your fish populations. How are walleyes looking in your district?
Walleyes are pretty good in the southwest. You got Hart Butte. They're pretty good population, a lot of small fish, but there's keepers in there too. Patterson Lake here is looking really good this fall. They caught a lot of nice fish. Indian Creek, good as always. We have a few other lakes that got walleyes in them now that you may want to try, and one of them's Raleigh Reservoir. Sheep Creek has some pretty good walleyes in it. Spring Lake down in Bowman County is pretty good for walleye.
Okay, let's move into your pike populations.
Pike populations, the big three are going to be your places to go. Patterson Lake, Hart Butte, Bowman Haley got pretty good northern pike populations.
You have a lot of panfish in your district. Let's start with perch.
Yeah, perch, somewhere you may want to check out is Larson Lake in Hettinger County. That one's got pretty good perch population. And then you got the usual Odland Dam and Indian Creek have pretty good populations of perch. They're a little small right now, but there's some keepers. And then Hart Butte is actually a pretty good perch fishery right now.
Okay, moving to bluegills.
Bluegill, you're looking at Sheep Creek, Raleigh Reservoirs coming on pretty good for bluegill. A few community fisheries like Dickinson Dike has pretty good bluegill right now.
Okay, let's talk these community fisheries, Jeff. It's a good place when you get a lot of snow. Usually you typically have access to these community fisheries. Explain some of those.
Yeah, Dickinson Dike could be a good example of that. You know, they keep the road open going down to the lake. Usually it's tough getting around on the lake, but you can get there. It's not real big. You got pretty good fishable fish population there. A few of the other ones around are like Beach City Pond, Krieg's Dam, Gaby Pond. They're pretty good, you know, easy to access ponds. Typically not real good ice fishing in them, but you can get out there and try.
So Jeff, most of your lakes have good fish populations. Give us a tip if you've never fished before on when to target some of these species.
Yeah, typically walleye are more of an evening, morning type biting fish. Northerns, when they're tough to catch in the winter anyway, but if you can find them, it's pretty much all day. Perch, bluegill, things like that are all a little bit different. Perch are more of a day fish. Crappie, bluegill are more of an evening, morning type fish. And of course, it all depends on what's in the lake for forage too.
Okay. It's going to be a little while before your lakes are frozen over. One thing that all anglers should take into consideration when heading out is ice safety.
Yeah, you really want to be careful, especially in the Southwest. Most years we don't get more than 12 inches of ice. So this is shaping up to be one of those years where we're not going to get real thick ice, so just be careful.
A lot of great information, Jeff. Thank you. For more information on ice fishing, how to find a lake, or what fish species are stocked in a lake, visit the Game and Fish Department's website at gf.nd.gov. For Paul Bailey, Jeff Hendrickson, and the rest of the staff here at the Game and Fish Department, thanks for joining us for this week's program. We'll see you again next week.